know and then share what we know so that those that we love, those in our communities can have access to knowledge, to information. And so I want to appreciate Dr. Oko, who on very short notice agreed to come and be with us and share with us on today. And Sister Venice continues the journey and continues the conversation. We have agreed, concurred that why not start with the preventative side and then go to the reactive side. Actually, the medical treatment and medical technologies can be on the preventative side. Typically, when we talk about heart disease, they're on the recovery side, if you will. So Sister Venice, I think she's got her small ones with us. She stepped out. I'm gonna get her. Sister Bozeman, you're gonna let her know that we're ready for her. And we're gonna go ahead and tee up. Elder Bozeman, we're ready to tee up the presentations. Okay. Second. Yeah, I think if you don't mind, you can go ahead and go. Okay. So that we can just go ahead and go ahead and tee up Dr. Oko. He can go ahead and go first. Okay, there's Fenice. Which one is that? Is that Dr. Oko? Okay. All right. Sister Fenice, we're going to go ahead and let Dr. Oko go. And without any further ado, Dr. Mike Oko. Y'all help me appreciate him this morning. In fact, let's just, gracious Father, we thank you for this day, for allowing us and our bodies to rest last night and to awake this morning. Even without the alarm clock, you touched us and allowed us to live, and we've got activity of our limbs. And now, God, we thank you for allowing some of your wisdom to be poured into us through these subject matter experts, Dr. Mike Oko, Sister Fenice Lewis. We pray, God, that you would give them even the more wisdom and insight as they pour into us and give us a heart to receive. God, in order that we might fulfill our days, you told us that they be 80, except by reason of strength. Open our understanding to the strength part and what part we have to play in being able to take advantage of that opportunity. We ask it in Jesus' name, and we thank you, Lord. Amen. Brothers and sisters, Dr. Mike Oko.
So good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for welcoming me. I highly appreciate it. Today, my goal is to talk about the prevention of heart disease and contribute a medical perspective. I work in the emergency department, so I see firsthand the acuity of heart attacks specifically and the impact it has on patients and their loved ones. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So, hindsight is 2020. An interesting perspective by working the emergency department is that I'm able to see what regret looks like from a patient perspective and an impact that has on them and also their family. I see the cries, I see the level of despair. It's a very interesting perspective to have because it actually gives me insight as to how I should live my life in terms of certain risks against certain devastations, whether if it's traumatic accidents, but in the context of this case, it's heart disease. So, one of the biggest regrets that I see from patients as I experience their pain when they come to the emergency department is exactly what we're looking at right here is a heart attack. As we know, heart attacks typically tend to prevail in the African American community. Black men, there's a lot of reasons as to why that is the case, but nevertheless, it's always very painful to have to experience what these patients describe in terms of what they wish they could have done, should have done, and have needed to do. But unfortunately, in that moment, those preventions, unfortunately, will not, prevent what the overall prognosis is. So I say that to say it's a very, very interesting thing to have to address, and it provides a certain level of insight that can hopefully provide motivation and inspiration to take the steps we need to take on the front end before we have to experience unfortunate circumstances such as this. So, what is the heart before we talk about heart disease? Well, we can really look at it in a simple term, a simple phrase that I like to use. The heart supplies the pathways for your life, literally. Right now, we're looking at the heart, and we're looking at all the vessels that branches off the heart. Essentially, those are the various pathways that, supply life, whether if it's to the brain, to the liver, to any vital structure, organ that we have in our body. And that heart needs to pump at a certain time and with a certain force in order to provide those pathways with life. But an interesting juxtaposition is the fact that your life actually supplies the pathways to your heart. Inasmuch as your vessels go to your brain or to your muscles or to your lungs or to your liver, the choices you make in life actually supply your heart's ability to do just that. So it comes back down to choices. Lifestyle decides your life. So, heart disease, coronary artery disease is the number one cause of heart disease in America. There's various forms of heart disease, whether if we consider heart failure and different things such as that. But when you think about the etiology or the cause of heart attacks, we're talking about coronary artery disease. Now, what we're looking at the top is a normal pathway, a normal bridge, if you can look at it like that for simplicity's sake. And right underneath is a bridge that has a lot of traffic called a plaque. But instead of looking at it as a plaque, I would urge you to look at it as your lifestyle. Well, life is imperfect, but life is also an accumulation of choices. So unfortunately, there are a number of things that we cannot control that contribute to our risk, particularly the African American risk of heart disease. And those are called non-modifiable factors. We're talking about age, we're talking about gender, we're talking about race and ethnicity. That's the unfortunate imperfection that contributes to the risks of heart attack in our community. And a lot of that topic certainly is surrounded by generational trauma, racial trauma. However, life is choices, and on the right, we're looking at modifiable risk factors in the green there. And there are 6 primary preventable risks. And I'm going to offer a bit of a wisdom, a pearl per se, in terms of how to mitigate that particular unique risk. Smoking. Essentially, smoking causes sticky. If the blood at interstate, not allowed to be passed. Unfortunately, smoking is the number one preventable, cause of preventable death, all cause in the United States. So when you think about smoking, just think about sticky blood. And when you think about sticky blood, think about the inability for blood to get past that point. So what's the pearl? What's the takeaway? What's the learning? What's the wisdom within smoking? It's obviously a complex topic that has a lot of factors that are unique to any one single individual. But a single takeaway that we can think about is that it is the risk, if you quit smoking, you can limit the risk of a heart attack by 50% in 1 year. So let's take you've been smoking for 10, 15, 20 years or so and decide to quit. Well, that decision over the course of the next 1 year will limit the risk of a heart attack by 50%. So we're talking about a significant difference. And so I think that takeaway is something to add into the wheelhouse of resilience when we think about how we interact with smoking in its overall effect on our risk of a heart attack. We're looking at a graph here that demonstrates exactly what I said. So overall, as one continues to cease smoking over a period of time, I believe in 15 years, your risk for a heart attack completely eliminates, and it becomes no greater of a risk than an individual who had never smoked in his or her life. Diabetes. Well, we can think of diabetes as pretty much making the blood thick. Too much sugar, it's more things on the bridge. There's an extra car that shouldn't be there on the bridge. And that extra car, that extra traffic per se, doesn't allow what needs to be delivered to be delivered. So what's the takeaway behind diabetes that we can perhaps move forward in our lives with? Commitment to a healthy diet, and know your A1C, your hemoglobin A1C. It's a significant determinant for the diagnosis and the prognosis related to diabetes. We all may have an idea about this particular marker, but it's something that can be checked every 3 or so months by your primary care doctor. So just being empowered with having the metric, the understanding of what is the measure for diabetes as it relates to me. Knowledge is power. High cholesterol and physical inactivity. Well, how can we think about this? Well, it makes the blood heavy. So not only when we talk about sticky blood with diabetes, we talk about sticky blood with the first risk factor. We talk about thick blood with the second risk factor. Now we're talking about heavy blood when it comes to high cholesterol and physical inactivity. What we're looking at here is a diagram of what a normal bridge looks like, all the way to the end of an impacted bridge with a high level of cholesterol. Now, if we think about it in simplicity's sake, it's less of an ability for blood to get past that obstructed pathway, which increases our risk for a heart attack. Okay, so what's the lifestyle pearl when it comes to cholesterol? Request a lipid panel from your PCP or whatever facility you may present to, even if it's the emergency department, because again, knowledge is power. So how are you able to determine and know what your cholesterol level is by this particular test here. And what I have listed here is a range from low to high in terms of cholesterol levels, okay? And also what's not listed, but what's important to know is compliance with medications. Lipitor or atorvastatin is the other word for it. It's a medicine that can reduce your cholesterol level. But again, it's a lipid panel. Lipid panel test is a test that can be used to determine your level of cholesterol, which can help incite you and inform you on your risk for an overall heart attack. Again, knowledge is power, so it's a lipid panel. So when talking about physical inactivity, we're essentially talking about exercise. Well, build the exercise, the free exercise prescription. Costs no money, doesn't cost, there are a lot of challenges in terms of access to care, medications, etc. When we talk about exercise, we can consider this a free prescription. Now, the recommended amount of exercise per week is 150 minutes, 2.5 hours. And what we're looking at in this graph here are the different types of activities that can contribute to the overall 150 minutes. So, 150 minutes. So we're not only talking about exercise in terms of, running and high performance type of drills, styles, etc. Even things such as vacuuming, stair climbing, things that we can potentially even do while we work throughout the course of the week can help us fulfill the amount of exercise that's required in order for us to limit our risks of cardiovascular disease. Obesity. What we're looking at here in this particular diagram is a normal heart versus a heart that could be impacted with obesity. There's a lot of different factors that play into this unique risk factor, and it's a very, very complicated particular cause to address. However, a takeaway is knowing your BMI, your body mass index, taking this term and bringing it to your provider so you can have a knowledge in terms of how you stand and where your risk level is for a heart attack. Now, there's a lot of discussions, a lot of debate over what's the best and most effective metric for weight, but still, by and large, what's most reliable is, in fact, the BMI. And obesity is defined as 130 and above. So knowing your BMI, again, the knowledge is power theme, is the wisdom that we can take away in terms of being empowered to address the risk factors that go into the experience of a heart attack. Probably the most complicated and the one that I typically see most often, and the factor that tends to be, for whatever reason, the hardest to control from a patient perspective is high blood pressure. What it essentially does is just erodes the bridges. And we can think about it as rain or whatever type of substance beating on the bridge and causing damage to the overall structure. That structure is damaged, so that structure cannot facilitate what needs to flow through it. That's essentially the process and the pathology involved with high blood pressure. Again, there's a lot of reasons, complex reasons, that go into managing this particular risk factor. And to be honest with you, it's something that I actually, struggle with in terms of being on top and knowing what my blood pressure is, just due to the taboo and the risks that go into particularly black men in terms of what it is and what you need to do about it. That needs to be overcome so we can to limit our, as we are in fact the primary demographic in the process. It's a lifestyle problem. What it's against unique one to increase family, the stress that there may be. And if we're looking at this blood pressure table here, well, we can see that, stage 1 hypertension is within a range of 130 to 139, and we see stage 2, 140 and higher. So ultimately, what I'm trying to impress is that stress can take us into the next level of hypertension. So the takeaway with that particularly is building resilience against stress, and also taking prescribed medications, which also tends to be one of the challenging factors that I experience in my practice. Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to answering questions in the Q&A session. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Oko. Excellent presentation. We're going to add to that the nutritional component with Sister Fenice Lewis.
Good morning. All right, here we go. Let me go back. All right, good morning. My name is Fenice Lewis. I am the owner of Yellow Pasta. It is a nutrition and consulting organization. I am also a certified nutritional consultant, and I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in nutrition with a concentration in dietetics. Okay, so today I am talking to you all about heart disease from a nutritional perspective, okay? Heart disease and the African American church community. The African American church community is a vital part of the community, often serving as a hub for social support and outreach. However, heart disease remains a significant health concern within this community. I just want to acknowledge how well Dr. Oko brought us the medical side of everything, but now we're going to get into the nutritional side. So just a show of hands, who can tell me, or just by raising your hand, if you know someone who may have been impacted or has high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or maybe you yourself? Right? All of us, just almost everybody in here raised their hand. Okay. Okay, so the role of nutrition in heart health. So first, diet and heart health go together, okay? The foods we eat can significantly impact our heart health, and a balanced diet can lower our risk of heart disease and cholesterol. So if your diet mainly consists of high cholesterol foods, high processed foods, it was going to increase your chances of having a high BMI, of having high cholesterol, of having high blood pressure. So you may be thinking, okay, what are these foods? So high processed foods, fried foods, when you go to the grocery store, typically anything that's in a box, bag, or a jar is gonna be high in sugar, high in salt, and those increase your high blood pressure, it increases your cholesterol, okay? So usually you want to kind of stay away from those foods or just eat them in moderation. Fruits and vegetables. So fruits and vegetables provide us with nutrients and antioxidants that help protect the heart and blood vessels, okay? So some people may think eating fruits and vegetables is pretty insignificant, but it actually is not. Fruits and vegetables provide you with certain phytonutrients that when you consume them, you get the same benefit from consumption as the plant would. For example, phytonutrients are plant-based nutrients. It's compounds that the plant makes to protect the plant from certain bacteria, fungus, and diseases. So when you consume those same phytonutrients, you get the same benefit that the plant is provided by consumption, okay? And then that also works hand in hand with antioxidants, okay? One thing I like to tell people is to eat the rainbow, not the Skittles, but eat the rainbow, like different fruits, different colors of fruits, orange, yellow, green, red. They all provide different phytonutrients that you will benefit from, whether it's, helping you with immune health, whether it's, immune health. It's so many other benefits to consuming those phytonutrients. Whole grains. Choosing whole grains over refined grains provides essential fiber, which helps lower cholesterol levels. So switching from white rice, because that would be considered a refined food, to brown rice. That's more whole grains, it's more fiber. You're also getting the benefit of the phytonutrients in those grains as well. Another one is maybe eating quinoa, maybe eating instead of russet potatoes, eating sweet baked potatoes, because you get, with the refined sugars, like the refined white bread, white rice, you get just sugar, as opposed to eating whole grain rice, whole grain bread, quinoa, you get fiber, you get those benefits. Healthy fats. Include sources of healthy fats, such as avocado, nuts, and olive oil to support your heart health. So healthier fats would be omega-3 fatty acids. Avocados, you get that from your nuts, depending on, like if you like to fry chicken, what are you frying it in? A healthier oil would be peanut oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil. So just making those certain modifications can contribute to an overall healthier diet. Okay, so just to kind of overview that a little bit, foods that are high processed, fried foods, foods that are high in salt, high in sugar, will increase your chance of having heart disease or high cholesterol. Keeping in mind that heart disease, it is preventable. If we change the way we eat, we modify our lifestyle by increasing exercise, you can decrease your chances of getting heart disease. Now, it may differ based on, like Dr. Oko said, your age and your gender and your genetic compound, but there is ways that you can modify that by being mindful of what you're consuming. All right, so we'll kind of get into that a little bit. So there are some traditional African American diets and heart-healthy alternatives. Okay, so I'm not going to dig deep into it, but there are some alternatives, okay? So some of those traditional dishes, I have an example up here. Fried chicken, collard greens with fat back, and macaroni and cheese. So good. I grew up on it. I understand. But in today's time, it's so important to know what we can do to change our outcome. Meaning, what can I do that may increase my lifespan by 10 years, okay? And that is just, if you like to make fried chicken, just change up the oil. Maybe fry it in grapeseed oil, okay? Or instead of frying it, maybe bake it. You know, I would even say you can barbecue it, but it just depends on like kind of what you put on it, right? So instead of maybe using high seasonings that may have a lot of salt, use herbs, different herbs, thyme, basil, parsley, what's another one? Onion powder, garlic powder. Those are all different ways to make your food taste good, but you're not getting the salt.
Where do oxtails?
I have a question. Where do oxtails
Cracklings when I'm on my way back from New Orleans.
and cracklings? I would say, you know, we all have our favorite foods that we enjoy. And I'm not saying don't enjoy those foods, but that you could alter how you prepare it and still be able to enjoy it. Now, the cracklings, I know that's fried. You can't really get away from the cracklings. So I would just say consuming those in moderation is key.
And let's just say, for the record, I don't eat cracklings.
Oh, okay.
My
Okay.
dad
I
died
know.
of congestive heart failure.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, moderation is key, I will say. I'm not standing up here to tell you, oh, you have to do this. I'm just telling you what could help in the long run, okay? So a heart-healthy alternative, like we said before, instead of frying the chicken, maybe baking the chicken. Or if you're gonna fry the chicken, just choose a healthier oil that you fry it in, okay? Collard greens, instead of with the fat back, because you'll get the salt, the sodium from that, maybe just steam them. I've never tried steamed collard greens. I'm used to the collard greens with the back fat, but this is an alternative that you can do. And so macaroni and cheese, we love it. We grew up on it, but instead of buying the macaroni and cheese out of the box from the store, because you're gonna get a lot of additives, you're gonna get a lot of sodium because that's how they preserve it so it can have a longer shelf life. You can make it at home by just buying the whole wheat pasta. And then what you could also do is make your own sauce by using vegetables. So I've seen it to where someone has made their own macaroni and cheese. They bought the pasta, they made their own sauce, and they added like a nutritional yeast that will give you that cheesy factor. And they ground all of that up. Cashews is how they came up with the texture. They soaked cashews overnight, ground it all up in a blender, cheesy sauce, rub it in there, there you go, macaroni and cheese. It may take a little longer. It's not quick. I know, you know, we kind of get used to, well, it's quicker just to buy the box and stuff, but at the same time, it's not healthier. So just to kind of recap, you know, we can still enjoy our dishes, but just making them a little bit more healthier. Okay, so instead of frying something, maybe baking it or broiling it. Instead of using maybe a refined sugar like potatoes, maybe use sweet potatoes. I've gotten into eating purple potatoes. Purple potatoes provide a lot of fiber, beneficial fiber. Different cheese, like different macaroni and cheese or collard greens or green beans, just preparing them just a little different. I'm used to green beans being in a lot of bacon, which is fine, but there are alternatives out there that you can do instead of cooking them that way. We have a question. We have two questions. Mm-hmm. So she said, what about air frying your chicken? That's a really good question. You can air fry your chicken, that's fine. Also, just be mindful of the machine you're using to air fry the chicken. It's recommended that you use stainless steel appliances because a lot of the non-stick appliances have a certain chemical that will seep into the food if cooked with those. So that's great, but just make sure what you're using to your air fryer is more like a stainless steel air fryer.
Where do you find the purple potatoes?
That's a good question. So I've been having some trouble finding the purple potatoes because I just want a whole bag, but I know you can get them online, but I get mine from HEB. They have like a potato medley. If you look in the potatoes section, it's just a little small bag. It has purple potatoes, butter potatoes, and red potatoes. That's where I get them from. No, he had a great question. Is there any harm to curry? No. Curry is just a herb. It's actually very beneficial. No salt in curry. I actually like to make curry chicken. I add turmeric because turmeric also helps with inflammation. So turmeric and curry works together, so no harm in using curry at all. That is a great question, and I'll just poke on that just for a second. I would, in my personal opinion, I would say it's just, how can I say this? It's marketing, we're in the United States, things are different, you know, there's a way things are ran, if that makes sense, if y'all can understand that. So they are only allowed, so the nutrition label is gonna tell you what's in that product. Now, you're basically saying, tell me what's in the product and tell me my risk if I eat this product. In some countries, they do. Here in the United States, they do not. Why? I'm not sure, but that's why that's my thoughts. Not saying that just, you know, saying that in so many few words, but that's okay. But that is why we are here in place to educate. And this is so important because you need to know how to read a nutrition label, especially in today's time now where food is being altered. Food coloring is becoming more and more prominent. People are starting to make chicken, make fish in a lab. You know, so being able to read a nutrition label, know what you're reading is so, so important. GMO products. I know in a lot of the products at the store, majority of them, if you go to the store today, pick up a box, look on the box, find the nutrition label, look all the way at the bottom. Majority of, like I said, stuff in boxes, jars, bags, they contain a bioengineered ingredient. What is that? It was made in a lab, basically. Something in this product was altered in a way, and so they just put it into that, whatever the product is. So it's so important, so important, so important, and I cannot stress it enough. Know how to read a nutrition label, know what you're picking up, know what you're eating, and you may want Lay's, right? But then there may be a healthier alternative. A couple rows down, maybe lower at the bottom. And that's strategy. They put how things are, they put it eye level, because it's like, oh, we'll pick that, not knowing that there's a healthier option underneath. Yes, sir.
Because we live in a country that's more economically driven, the Food and Drug Administration is also approached by lobbyists. And these lobbyists actually force feed them and support certain areas of their economy, which then lessens the strictness. Earlier this week, we had a physician in, Dr. Tate, came in to explain the relationship between diabetes, insulin, and other things. When I first attended the academy where they were explaining that, I asked, why wasn't it more publicly driven? All of those doctors said to me, they will kill us because of the amount of money that they make off prescriptions. And therefore, technical things like this help our society, but they're so limited. And so the quick answer to that is there are people who actually lobby against what's more healthy because they make much more money off of the drug than they do off of the sale of the product.
Exactly. He said it. I didn't want to say it like that, but that is exactly right. That's exactly right. It's just a system, and a lot of it has to do with money. So that's why, taking part in seminars like this is so important, where you can have Dr. Oko come, a nutritionist come to educate. Because now, if you have the knowledge, then you'll be able to make better choices. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. Besides reading, when you're reading labels, besides sodium, what is the most other thing that's most harmful that we should look for when we're reading labels?
That is a good question. Sodium, total amount of sugar, added sugar, saturated fat. So when you're reading a nutrition label, I don't have one up, typically it'll tell you the serving size and how many servings you will get in this package. So for example, if I had ice cream and the serving size was 3/4 cup, and you only got maybe 3 servings out of it. Well, I don't know about you guys, but ice cream about this big, you can sit there and eat the whole thing. So if you sit there and eat the whole thing, you're basically just tripling, depending on what the nutrition label is, you're tripling everything that you got. So for example, if it said saturated fat for 3 cups is 10 grams. Well, if you eat the whole thing, you're getting more than 10 grams, okay? Saturated fat is big. Sodium is big. You want to make sure the sodium is low, okay? Sugar, and a big one is added sugar. So if you pick up a product, you turn it around, read the nutrition label, it'll say sugar 5 grams, but it may say total added sugar 25 grams. So basically that product is just sugar. That's it. It's just a lot of sugar. It already has sugar, but then they added more sugar, which doesn't help contribute to what? High blood pressure, high cholesterol. And ingredients is another big one. The first takeaway tip, because we're on tips and stuff, but a takeaway would be the first 5 ingredients in a package is going to tell you what's mainly inside of that package. So if you see sugar or salt or high fructose corn syrup as one of the top 5 ingredients, that's mainly what that product is. So you may not want to eat that product, or if it's something you like, ice cream or something, just eating it in moderation, or just eating the serving size, like 3/4 cup one day, maybe get another 3/4 cup 2 days later, but not sitting there consuming that whole thing. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, all right. Yes, sir.
And on the heels of what you just said, has the pyramid, the nutrition pyramid, changed at all? And if so, also follow-up, not a follow-up, an additional question is, what is there an agreement in the nutrition field? It can even be in docs, but is there a has the RDAs has it maintained the 2,500 or whatever number they use for that? Is that still the same? You know, the pyramid, is it still the same with the, you know, the peak is the worst things and on down to the best things? Has that changed or been modified at all? And the RDA, the recommended daily allowance, has that changed at all? Those are my two questions.
Those are great questions. So RDAs are still the same, but the pyramid is changed. It's no longer a pyramid because some people were having trouble understanding the pyramid. So now it's a plate. You can go to eatright.org and it'll show you, it's called My Plate. It'll show you the recommended portion sizings for the different food groups. So for example, it's a picture of a plate. If you all can kind of just imagine, it's a picture of a plate. And at the, it's dairy in the cup. It's like a little glass that has dairy. And then there's fruits, vegetables take up half of your plate. And then it's only a little bit of protein and a little bit of whole grains. But that plate is basically signifying that your plate should be more fruits and more vegetables. Half of your plate should just be fruits and vegetables, only a fist size of protein, and then a little bit of whole grain. So I would definitely, that's a great resource that you all can look up on your own time. It's called eatright.org. To begin to wrap it up so we can answer more questions, and Dr. Oko can come up here and join me for those questions. Now it's just empowering the community, and we can begin to, so there are one being your plate. It'll also is important also. Bigger, so we tend to overeat. Okay, so knowing how much to eat is beneficial. Cooking classes. If you or someone loves to cook, you know, maybe starting a cooking class here at the church. You know, maybe starting a cooking class to kind of show, hey, we're gonna make chicken, but we're gonna make it this way. We're gonna use healthier fats. Instead of margarine, we're gonna use soy-free butter. Okay, earth-balanced soy-free butter. Instead of using Tony Chachere's salt, we're going to use Tony Chachere's herb spices. We're going to use more garlic powder, onion powder, things like that. Community gardens are also very beneficial because in the store, when you buy your fruits and your vegetables, you kind of want to make sure they're organic because that's a kind of a way to let you know that no pesticides were involved when that product was grown. If you do not buy organic, you're possibly or was grown with a lot of pesticides, and so that's not beneficial once you eat that. So by having your own community garden, you're able to, one, maybe pass out or grow your own fruits and vegetables, provide that service for the church. You're also able to grow it how you would like to, in organic soil, without pesticides, things like that. And then health screenings are also very, very, very important, similar to what Dr. Oko said. The earlier, the better. Knowledge is key. Okay, so making sure you go to the doctor on a regular basis, getting screened for some of your high blood pressure, high cholesterol, like he stated, your LDL levels, making sure you know what your BMI is, where you stand. And if you are on that overweight kind of obesity peak, just taking the preventative measures to come to digress. Okay, and these are some of the preventative measures to do that. That wraps up my presentation. I appreciate you all, but just to kind of overview, you want to eat less processed foods. You want to eat less foods high in salt. You want to eat less foods high in sugar, because those two, salt and sugar, will increase your blood pressure. It will increase your cholesterol. You could have a higher BMI. There are so many kind of negative things to that. But if you eat more plant-based foods, more fruits, different colors, vegetables, different colors, whole grains, you're getting the fiber, you're getting the antioxidants, you're getting so many benefits from eating those foods. And even the dairy, I'll touch on the dairy. So cow milk, very quickly, cow milk, it's been approved to where it can be a certain amount of, it's called pus from the cow in the milk. And so sometimes if you drink cow milk, you may be like, oh, well, why am I so inflamed? You know, why do I feel heavy? It's because of that. So maybe switching from cow milk to like almond-based milk. There's a product that I like to buy. It's called Milk. It's only almonds and water and a little Himalayan salt. That's it. But you'll still get the benefits, the calcium, the vitamin D that you would from the cow milk. You're just not getting the pus from that either. So just a quick small story, and then I'll wrap it up. I was doing some research one day, and I came across a lady's story, and she was diagnosed with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, cancer, and all these things. She was taking about 15 different medications a day. She couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't walk down the street. So she decided to go on a plant-based diet, and after maybe about 3 to 6 months, she began to see improvement. She got off of all her medicine. She was able to get out of bed. She was able to walk down the street. She didn't have her cane or anything like that. So I'm not saying start today. I'm just saying take the information, take the knowledge, one step at a time. Before you start subtracting, maybe add. So instead of maybe eating chips for a snack, let me just try to eat an apple. Instead of, while I'm cooking, instead of maybe having mashed potatoes, let me try to make a baked sweet potato with that soy-free butter I was telling you about. So I strongly believe that we can heal from within by changing our diet, changing our lifestyle. It'll allow us to have a longer lifestyle and longevity. Thank you.
So I'm outstanding, both presentations. I'm sure the audience has additional questions as well. I got a question for Dr. Oko, and then I'll come to Elder. For people who are just extremely busy, you had the kind of the wheel of different exercise types. Is there any advice? You talked about something as simple as vacuuming. Is there any advice that you can offer for people who are just extremely busy in terms of how we maximize or take advantage of or make time for our exercise benefits?
Well, one thing that we can do is take advantage of the technology that's out there. I know a lot of people utilize like the Apple Watch, where it can monitor your heart rate and the different amount of steps that you take throughout the course of a day. So that could be a good tool to be able to measure your actual amount of time working out, what your heart rate level is, etc. Also, I would strongly consider, instead of taking the elevator, perhaps take the stairs while at work throughout the course of a day. Those are, some really fundamental, things that, we can do while encompassing a busy schedule. To be honest with you, I don't exercise I may do 3-4 times a month, to be honest with you. So just utilizing things such as that, because the reality is that we are busy. We're busy, and we don't necessarily have the time to optimize the general recommendations that are out there, but taking advantage of technology, utilizing steps, et cetera, to maximize our exercise amount, I think could be some good nuggets. Thank you.
Bishop Tate mentioned earlier about how politics play into our health, put it that way. and the availability of some medicine, some nutritional information. I was looking at a report this week on one of the world news channels, and they had a panel gentleman from one of the big pharmaceuticals that produce Ozempic. And the question was, they presented to them, why is Ozempic so expensive in the United States compared to some of the other countries? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And he gave, oh, we're working to solve that problem, so forth and so on. He never did directly answer the question. But I think politics, it plays a whole lot into the information that we get in terms of nutrition. So we really have to take it upon ourselves to read the labels, do a little bit more research for our own health, because it's about the money, unfortunately. It really is. It's about the money. Doctor, you mentioned about smoking, the impact that it has on our blood. What about vaping and smoking weed?
Yes, I know there's a lot of debate with those two. For sure, vaping, without a doubt, certainly causes inflammatory changes to the blood vessels. Marijuana, there's been some, I guess, there's been literature that suggests no cardiovascular risk related to marijuana. Yes, for sure. Yes, yeah. And so, however, I will say just the act of smoking in and of itself is an independent risk factor. And so I would take away, I guess, the notion of what's being smoked, but rather just focusing on the act of smoking in and of itself as a risk.
Okay, I have a question on virgin olive oil. How good is it? I cook with it on my eggs, fries, in a deep fryer, and I use what's the other thing that it's air fryer, and then I use my air fryer in that. How healthy is that with that olive oil?
You mind addressing the question?
Olive oil is it's a healthy fat, so that's fine. Because you said you cook your eggs in it? And what else? That's fine. Yes, that's fine.
Quick question. Oh, I'm sorry, Brother James. Elder James, go ahead. Go ahead, Elder James. Okay. Back to marijuana. I don't have any on me. Back in the 70s, they talked about how marijuana destroyed your brain cells. Oh, the effects it had on the brain. Now, all of a sudden, they don't mention that anymore. Are we back to the financial gain? Because everybody that I know that smoke marijuana, it does look like it's eating up their brain cells. So is that still a fact that marijuana smoking kills brain cells?
Well, it's certainly a symptom. It's not uncommon for people to present to the emergency department with psychosis, delirium, those kinds of neurologic disturbances as a result of smoking marijuana. So certainly it's a symptom without a doubt. Unsure of the long-term ramifications, because typically, I guess once the high is out, symptoms do improve, but no telling what over time that can do. But there have been cases where people have had irreversible psychosis as a result of smoking, especially nowadays when things are laced. No telling what the prognosis would be.
Glad to have you here, fella. Who that? But anyway,
I like it.
both of you referenced the BMI, and I've been battling with my doctor with this for years. And what are your opinion in reference to, is this like across the board? Because my doctor had referenced to me that my weight should be approximately around 190. I haven't been 190 since high school. And I feel defeated because I can't get down to that weight that he's saying, because my BMI says that's the weight that I should be at, when I don't see me going back to 190 again. But anyway, is that BMI, is that still, do you guys say that that's across the border because we are African American? Because I know people have said that makes a difference also.
Yeah, without a doubt. If I'm not mistaken, I believe when these metrics were created, they were created without the idea of black people in mind. And so, therefore, it doesn't necessarily translate to black people with as much accuracy, correct? And so that's why, in fact, there's a lot of debate in terms of what's the best metric to use for weight. I believe there's been another metric that's been presented. I'm not sure if it's necessarily official, but without a doubt, you're spot on.
Yeah, just quick question on your heart, the diagram you had. It's two questions I have about that. You know, the upper and lower chambers. I have one friend that had an issue with the ventricular component, and he's waiting on a new heart, and he never got it, and he's still okay for now, you know, with the meds and the defib, you know, onboard defib. But my question is, on the aorta, does it always lead to a fatal consequence if that's ruptured or something like that?
If the aorta particularly?
Yeah, if it's
oh, yes.
Kind of like, is it just plain simple?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Generally, it's typically, you know, fatal, especially if I think what you may be referring to is what's called an aortic dissection. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. Yeah, because it's essentially the main vessel that comes off of the heart to go to everywhere in your body. So once that thing ruptures, it's like a bridge. If it collapses, it's typically fatal.
And the last part of that question was, Doc told me, this is a friend of mine, Doc told me that the best portion of the heart of the four chambers is the upper atrium versus the guy I just told you about. He's been around for more than 10 years. He's waiting on the heart, and he aged out, got off the list because they couldn't get a heart for him. He's still around.
Wow.
He's ventricular too.
Does he have an LVAD?
The onboard?
Yeah, ventricular device, okay.
I want to add some information to the marijuana and brain cell issue. Once again, the Bible tells you that you shall know the truth and the truth frees you. As a portion of passing the law that marijuana was legalized, they wanted them to take out the information about what it would do to your brain cells. See, so once again, they modify what truth is. And then, unfortunately, there are other congregations that are stuck with us when that truth is modified for the program group. I think that's what Doc is saying. We generally are not a part of the study. And therefore, most of our cardiologists, Nadi, you know, Dr. Nadi Mara, he practices, and then Dr. Jaggy George is mine in St. Luke's. But what they do is they start out at an Anglo level, and then they modify you, you know, notice you, track you, and then say, no, let's lower this and let's increase this, because we're never part of the initial study. And a part of that is, as we said earlier this week, because of the Tuskegee study and all the other things where we were deliberately not taken care of, it fears us to be a part of the study now. But I'm just showing you how, once again, politics and economics will modify the truth so that it sells better, kills quicker, and nobody's saying a thing about it.
Without a doubt.
So my husband and I, we have gastric sleeves, right? So they tell us to eat more protein because we need it for our muscle content. What would be like more than just too much for that? Because I know they may not say it. And as far as the exercises, my husband has a prosthetic leg, so will chair exercises be as good as, say, if he was like walking, or, you know, like walking a track or something like that?
I'll answer the protein and then you can answer the exercise. But I would definitely say just making sure you eat, like, protein is fine, just what are you eating? Maybe not a lot of red meat, but maybe like turkey is beneficial. Chicken is also beneficial, just in moderation, because it could cause inflammation as well. But you also, it doesn't have to be meat to get protein. You can get protein from certain vegetables like broccoli, you can get.
He also has kidney failure, so he can't eat like the broccolis, the stuff like that.
Okay, all right.
Tomatoes, all that good stuff.
Okay, all right, understand. Okay. But you can also get protein from beans. Beans actually will provide more protein than meat. But I would say stay away from the red meat because it's higher in saturated fat, and choose more lean meats. And again, you don't have to eat meat to get protein. You can get that from other sources. I'll have him answer the exercise.
The gastric sleeve. Oh, it's kind of, similar, like if the stomach, it normally drains into the intestine. Sometimes if people have any, diseases related to the stomach, it pretty much functions like as an artificial mechanism to function the stomach, if that makes any sense. Yes, sir. And yes, so isometric exercises are actually proven to be as effective as like aerobic exercises, which includes things such as running, jogging, etc. And isometric exercises include things such as stretching. So what you mentioned certainly can be effective in addition to things such as stretching and using the chair to do simple exercises at home, such as push-ups or, those kinds of activities.
Hold on a second.
I have a two-part. First, I want to make a statement about the marijuana. I was in my doctor's office yesterday, and this was really funny. Me and my wife really laughed about it. But the Medicare is requiring that doctors do like workup sheets on people for his information, ask a lot of questions. And then also, if you take certain prescription drugs and you mix with other drugs, they're forcing them to take drug tests. So there's this 80-year-old lady who gets a report from the doctor that she's taking marijuana. And she said she told the doctor that her and her husband was sunflower. Back in the 70s when everybody was smoking. They've been smoking marijuana for 45 years every day, and they're both healthy. So that's another story. But I told the doctor I sure would like to meet her just to talk to her. But my question is this, a two-part question, and it hasn't been addressed. When you consider soft drinks, what are the dangers of soft drinks? And secondly, from a medical standpoint, what are the organs that's most affected by soft drinks?
Okay, I'll answer the second part of the question. So the organs most affected, what we've talked about, because soft drinks contain those risks that ultimately impact the heart, stroke, the brain, kidney disease. Exactly. So those organs, the vital organs essentially are the ones, that contents within soft drinks can really impact. So I would lean towards those specific vital organs.
That's a good question. Soft drinks like sodas, their number one ingredient is high fructose corn syrup, which is just liquid sugar. So in soft drinks, you'll have sugar, but then you have about 25 grams of added sugar. So it's really just carbonated liquid sugar. In some soft drinks, also the ones that may be red and yellow, you'll have food coloring. Yellow 1, red 40. Okay, that's not beneficial for consumption either. Food color research is being done that shows food coloring is being linked to carcinogens, which is cancer for lack of a better word. So that's mainly the component in soda is just sugar. Healthy soft drinks, I would say yes. That I would drink, yes. I don't know the brand, but there's one that it's not high fructose corn syrup, but it's cane sugar. It's still sugar, but it's maybe a healthier sugar. Sugar, right? But I rarely drink soda, to be honest. So So, I mean, I hope that answers your question. But when I have a soda, I like Sprite, but it's in moderation. It's rare. But I do know after drinking a soda, I feel bloated. Maybe that's just me. So I tend to not drink a lot of soda for that reason. I rather get my calories a different way. That's a good question. He mentioned green tea. Green tea is good, but if it's in the bottle from the store, it also has high fructose corn syrup. So it's sugar. If you want green tea, maybe you can do the tea bags, making it your own. Tea bags, boiling it, letting it chill, adding lemon, ginger, and mint to it, put it in the refrigerator. You made your own without the high fructose corn syrup.
Yes, I work with special needs students, young adults who are 20 and above. And one particular student that I have, his parents have given him a 16-ounce Dr. Pepper for the past 5 years, 3 sodas per day. As a result, that student is morbidly obese, but if he does not receive that Dr. Pepper, he begins to tantrum. In order to control that behavior, the parents have foregone that need to assess his nutritional value and just give him the soda so they can maintain his behaviors. But my question is that a healthy environment, which I'm assuming it is not, but it does give that student a chance to pause. He is morbidly obese. He has heart conditions, but the parents have elected to give him those sodas regardless of the outcome because they want him to be happy and stable. But as a medical profession, what can we do to encourage them not to do as much? Or is there anything that we can do to do that?
Well, that story actually falls in line with the data, which suggests that obesity is actually increasing, particularly in the child population. It's unhealthy to answer your question. I mean, with the role that you are in, I would say the biggest sense of support is perhaps parental education in terms of risk of that, specific, experience. So that's how I would speak to it. So. Yes, potentially, yeah, for sure.
Question, Dr. Oko or Fanice, whichever of you is more inclined to answer this. I know our focus today has been on heart disease, but the question about added sugars has come up a lot, which when I hear sugars, I think cancer. We know cancer can't thrive without sugar in the body. What about when we think about cancer and the environment in which it thrives? I understand the lower pH environment with sugar is just kind of ideal, perfect for cancer. Can you say just a little bit that would help us to make the connection to why added sugars or just sugar, unconsumed sugar in our bodies, and what else we may be able to benefit in a brief moment as it concerns the cancer, because I know that's a significant concern as well.
Yes.
I'll answer from the sugar perspective, and then I'll let Dr. Oko respond from like the cancer perspective. So I believe I heard your question correctly. Say it one more time for me.
Basically, the connection between added sugars, low pH environment, conducive to cancer, being able to thrive in the human body.
So from a nutritional perspective, you want your body to be in more of an alkaline state. Like Superintendent Wilson said, when you have a more acidic environment, cancer is likely to thrive in that type of environment. So you want to eat foods that are more alkaline based as opposed to more acidic. Alkaline based is neutral. It's not acidic, but it's just a neutral state, if that makes sense. So just having your body in more of an alkaline state as opposed to acidic, because a lot of the food we eat, they're acidic. And if you want a list of those foods, I would definitely say Google alkaline food list. And maybe, like I said, the whole subtraction and adding, maybe adding more of the alkaline foods to your diet while you eliminate more of the acidic foods from your diet. Okay, but when your body is in that alkaline state, you decrease your chances of possibly carcinogenic exposure, if that makes sense. Okay, I'll let Dr. Oko, I hope I answered that question. If not, let me know. But I'll let him speak more about the cancer side of that.
To kind of parallel the dynamic between acidic, alkalotic, I like to think about it, like think about football, like an interception, correct? So foods that are acidic intercept the things in the blood that are supposed to protect you from, developing risks of cancer. And those acidic things have a whole bunch of positive charges on them. It's called hydrogen ions. So if something is alkaline, it has less of a positive charge, and blood from giving your organs things that can cause cancer. So that is certainly the connection with acidic foods that was spoke of. Acidic foods, essentially, you introduce those positive charges into your body, into your blood, which then can only increase the risk of developing cancer. So that's the correlation that I can make between acidic intake foods, which are the sugars, et cetera, the fats, et cetera, which ultimately can lead to an increased risk of cancer.
Amen. Doctor, you're from New Orleans, and I'm originally from New Orleans, as I've said. When I was there, my doctor used to tell me the food in New Orleans is good to you, but not good for you. And obesity is a pair with several of our brothers here. We had our leadership conference in New Orleans, and I took the brothers out to a restaurant. And we got there, and the guys ordered chicken and waffles. Well, when the waiter came out with the chicken and waffles, it was almost like a half a chicken on the plate. I got excited, man. And it felt, so I'm saying, we tend to think, eat it all. Is our and preacher, I call it sinful habits. Gluttony is a sin. So it's a reference to that the brother mentioned about the Dr. Pepper. Is it more of us trying to break some of the habits that has come down through our culture, or it's just that it's just difficult to live right? I mean, well, I wouldn't say live right, but to eat right. And I think I commend Pastor Wilson, Superintendent, and you guys for doing this, because I think that in the church atmosphere, we always preach that God can do anything. But if we believe it or not, there are a lot of us obese, a lot of us, because we go to church and we don't leave until 11 o'clock, and then we go out and eat after church and go to bed. So that's a habit I had to break myself. But I just wanted to put my 2 cents in reference to that and aspect of breaking some of the habits we have in reference to our eating habits.
Indeed, that's a good point. The primary, at least from my perspective, my opinion, the primary goal of healthcare is business. It's not prevention. So it puts the onus on us to empower ourselves and modify our lifestyle to actually optimize the sense of health that we need to have. And it speaks to your point. Just because it's given to us, it doesn't mean that we need to, take it or consume it, rather. So, we have the resilience, we have the knowledge and the wisdom to really take the empowerment into ourselves in terms of optimizing our health, because the healthcare system won't do it for us.
And the chicken and waffles are good.
Yeah. It's not good. Yeah.
Quickly just add to that, yes, I would just add to that. So, sometimes we're giving bigger portions. No, you don't have to sit there and eat the whole thing. A tip would be to maybe, like, say you're eating at a restaurant, they bring you your food, go ahead and get a to-go box of half of it, put it to the side, and eat the other half right there. I would say that's a tip to kind of modify feeling like you have to sit there and eat the whole thing. Another thing, a lot of times before you get ready to eat, drink a glass of water. Sometimes those cravings, or maybe your body is dehydrated and you're thirsty. Drink a glass of water. If you still have that, then go ahead and eat.
Doctor, in your presentation, you talked about how things affect the African Americans. So if you could you explain from genetic disposition how that it affects African Americans, and secondly, from a nutritional point, how do we mitigate that?
I see. Well, that's particularly from a genetic perspective, it's very complicated. But if I can explore and offer an hypothesis, I would suggest that generational trauma is actually transferred into a subsequent generation. And so that's how the particular genetic predisposition plays in. At least that's how I see it. Level that there's a certain composition within our DNA that makes us more prone. It is probably transferred due to generational trauma, and in plant-based diseases to
Hey, in an African American community, a lot of us prescribed or have symptoms of each other. We're all pre-diabetic or diabetic. And then we're all given similar medications. What about the herbal medications that are now popping up?
well,
is there any studies on it?
well, typically in medicine, at least, and I have my reasons as to why I think, but it's not an area that there's any interest or any stake in. It's not something that we study or are expected to study. They totally leave herbal medication, herbal treatment out the conversation particularly. However, I'll be remiss if I were not to, support, the studies that I've done independently and the books that I read independently, which shown, for whatever reason, a level of success with those treatments, herbal remedies. I'm not sure if we have any, addition, but yeah. From a medical perspective, it's not something that they teach us. It's not something that they expect us to know. And I suspect that, some of those reasons perhaps may be political, etc. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Wow. So the only word that comes to my mind is just wow. How beneficial it is for us to know, because when we know, we can make the choice to do. If we don't know, we're less empowered to understand how what we do impacts our desired outcome. So y'all, can we just give a rousing round of applause for Dr. Mike Oko and Sister Fenice Lewis? And wasn't that just empowering and impactful, how they combined the medical with the nutritional. And so we know that the nutritional is more on the early preventive side, but medicine can also have a preventative component too, when we understand how some of our preventive options can directly prevent the avoidable medical outcomes. So we thank Dr. Mike Oko, Sister Fenice Lewis. I had a conversation, I think it was just last Saturday, with Dr. Oko, and he said, I'll be more than delighted to come I certainly wish we would have had 10,000 people here, but I think if we start a conversation among 30, then that's a conversation that can be propagated from there. And Sister Fenice, because we wanted to make sure that we had a configuration that accommodated our being able to get from Dr. Oko, and so we kind of discussed, does it make sense to combine the two concepts? Dr. Oko said yes, and then just a couple days ago, Sister Fenice said, I'm ready. And so again, we thank God for them. Thank you all for making it a priority to be interested in the ways that we can better serve our parishioners, those whom we lead, those in our family, those in our communities. And please, let's take this knowledge back. If you don't already have Dr. Mike Oko's and Sister Fenice Lewis's information, get their contact information. Perhaps you may have other opportunities, other settings to use their knowledge, their skills, to be able to empower. Our community we tend to not have as much access, corporate access, other access, and so the church becomes one of the major vehicles that we can use to propagate this kind of beneficial information. Again, thank you both. And I'll just add, Dr. Oko goes on, I'm going to say medical call, I'm sure there's another term for it, at 12 noon. But he said this timing actually fits perfectly into my schedule. And so he's here at a sacrifice, knowing that he would have to go directly on call. So Dr. Oko, thank you so much. And I'll let Dr. Bailey, y'all remember Dr. Bailey, who came to us from Williams Temple, actually recommended Dr. Oko, so I'll let him know how much we appreciate him. And I asked Dr. Oko, what will be your fee? Anybody want to guess what he said? Yeah, he said no fee. So appreciate his, yeah. Thank you so much, Minister Jordan. Whenever Sister Fenice sacrifices, you sacrifice. Thank you for looking out for the prophet, Amaziah. God bless you all. Yes, sir, Pastor Carter. I think we effectively dealt with that in the chambers. If Bishop weren't here, I would say in the Bishop's chamber. Yes. Yeah, thank you all again so much. We're going to transition. We've got two dynamic moderated panel discussions going on after this one. One will be in here with Bishop Tates and Pastor Ron Eagleton, moderated by Elder Travis Kroom and Dr. Jared Davis. We also have in the South Forum a discussion about how to help pastors, ministers, bishops, superintendents, wives. They've got a tremendous kingdom impact role in which they serve, but it also comes with some challenges that we're not always aware of, and the saints, the people that we lead, aren't always aware of how they can help, how they can reduce some of the challenges that ministers, deacons, wives face. And so we'll be transitioning into both those moderated panel discussions. We'll take a few minutes break to give us time to get set up in here, and I believe they've already set up in the South Wing for the discussion of how we can support pastors' wives and ministers' wives. God bless you all, and thank you again. Help me thank again Dr. Oko and Sister Fenice.